Hello, I'm Caitlin Huey-Burns in for Major Garrett. Thank you and welcome to The Takeout. The Trump administration's Justice Department has opened a criminal inquiry into Fed Chairman Jerome Powell and whether he lied to Congress over the renovation of the Fed's headquarters. Now, this comes after the president has made repeated demands that the Fed lower interest rates and threatened to fire Powell, though he says now he knew nothing of this investigation into Powell. President Trump has been accused of weaponizing the law against his political foes in order to seek retribution or to bend them to his will. Now that accusation has reached the highest levels of our economy. A sharp rebuke signed by Treasury secretaries and all three living former Fed chairs said, quote, "This is how monetary policy is made in emerging markets with weak institutions. It has no place in the United States, whose greatest strength is the rule of law." Former Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen condemned the investigation and told CNBC it's the road to a banana republic. Powell himself released a video statement saying the DOJ was acting on behalf of the president and threatening his independence.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation.
And our Scott MacFarlane is here to break this all down. Scott, it is stunning to see that video. I've watched it several times now today, and each time it's more apparent that this is a very concerned Federal Reserve chairman. What more can you tell us about what we know about this investigation?
This is all kinds of upside down and inside out. It's like a page out of Wacky Wednesday, only it's Monday. First of all, that a criminal investigation is being acknowledged, if not announced, by Jerome Powell himself in a self-produced and self-released video is quite something. That the Department of Justice would undertake an investigation of a separate branch of the federal government and an independent branch of the federal government. That's quite something. And that Jerome Powell has been a frequent piñata for the president, a source of innumerable criticisms, and is now the subject of an investigation. That's something. But it's also not the first of its kind, because we have this series of investigations against political targets or critics of the president, from James Comey to Letitia James to Adam Schiff to John Bolton. There's a bit of a pattern in practice here, and I think the critics, which includes some Republicans, say this is a weaponization.
And you mentioned those cases. Are there any similarities here?
There's a bit of symmetry to the James Comey case, which you may remember was charged this fall as a felony in Virginia and was dismissed by a judge and has not been resuscitated. What James Comey was accused of doing is making a false statement in testimony to Congress in 2020. It's an allegation he denied. The case was dismissed. The judge said the prosecutor was unlawfully appointed. Jerome Powell has indicated there's some question about the testimony he gave to Congress, to the Senate Banking Committee in June 2025. We went through that testimony he gave. You were there. It was incredibly minuscule on the topic of the Fed's renovations. In fact, he only answered questions about it, didn't testify about it, and even the answers were short and declarative. It's hard to see what the foothold is here for a federal investigation, but nevertheless, there is one, and that's kind of the point, Caitlin. The process can be painful, and it could chill future critics from speaking up.
And, you know, what's so interesting, too, is that Chairman Powell's term as chairman ends in May, just a few months from now, but he'll be on the board for a couple of years after. Will this loom over that? Does that have anything to do with it?
Well, it's going to make things complicated, right, to get somebody to fill his shoes, because this has ticked off senators, and senators control the confirmation of the next Federal Reserve Board chairman and any other Reserve Board governors. Unless this investigation goes away, that problem doesn't go away. And
Senator Thom Tillis of North Carolina, a Republican, says that he will block future nominees if this is not resolved, and he can do that. Scott MacFarlane, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.